ready?
It's going.
Okay, my name is Angie Morthland. I am the president of the Mackinaw Area Historical Society. Welcome to our lecture series. I'm so excited to have you today because not only do we have a lecture series on Mondays, this coming Saturday we're going to have a baseball game at Heritage Village at 1 o'clock. If you're interested in coming. The following week, we're going to have a tractor talk, which means people are bringing their tractors in and putting them all around Heritage Village to talk to you about tractors. Do you guys know anything about tractors? No. Neither do I. So I'm going to go talk to them. Two of our board members are part of that. I would like to introduce some of our board members who are here. Roy is our cameraman right there. Leanne is our Zoom coordinator, which we're working, right? We're doing good. Sandy Planasek in the back. She's over there. Our vice president is Frank Bowles over there. Megan Flynn, she's in charge of our webpage. You haven't checked it out. It's amazing. You already met Donna, the amazing cookie lady. I'm getting to that amazing garden. Patrick over here with the other cap, who is the nice young man with a hat on. He works on our grounds on our board. And Marianne Moore in the back. Everybody knows Marianne from other places, but she works with us at the Heritage Village in charge of the garden and the pest house. And there's a huge litany. I can't go through them all, but she does an amazing stuff. So let's give our board members a round of applause. So are you about ready?
Oh, I'm way down here.
Oh, I like that. Well, I'm so excited to have this young lady with us because I met her about 3 years ago and we bonded over a lilac bush, didn't we? And I was excited to hear that her family has a rich history in Mackinaw since we're doing our lecture series about historical businesses and families. This kind of blends them together. So I'm not going to talk much more about Amy. She says she has a full long notes all about how to introduce yourself, right? So, without further ado, please give Amy Rogala a round of applause.
Thank you. I'm truly grateful for the opportunity to be here today. I'd love to invite you on a journey, one filled with history, heartfelt memories, and the kind of stories that offer a window into my family's legacy. This isn't just a presentation. It's a chance to share the spirit, resilience, and love that built something lasting, and thank you for being a part of it. My name is Amy Regala. I'm the eldest granddaughter of Richard and Rose Regala, the founders of the Mackinaw Creek Camping, and the future third generation.
Amy, could you talk to
A little louder?
Yeah,
I can try.
Yeah, I am old. Not in this room, but I am.
I grew up right here in the campground. I know you're probably thinking, right? What's it like growing up in a campground? Well, aside from never actually going camping, I spent the majority of my time outside, riding bikes, playing in the backyard, a very big backyard. Camping for me was like pitching a tent in your backyard. I mean, whenever we'd forget something, we'd just run back in the house to go get it. When I was 7, I asked my dad for $1 for a piece of candy, and he said no. He took me out back, taught me how to bundle firewood, so for 25 cents per bundle, I earned my candy bar. Some of my earliest memories are sitting on the desks while campers check in. The Regala work ethic was instilled in me from a very young age. Oftentimes, my mom would need a break, and I'd go hang with Dad. He once taught me how to hammer nails into a block of wood. Oh, did that keep me busy? I remember patrolling with my dad on bikes as we would do night security team. We'd watch Dad work, visit with the campers. I was raised in a house that my grandfather built with his 2 bare hands, and I still live in that house. It's a place full of memories and the foundation of our family legacy. Living in a campground has made me a woman of many skills, learning many different aspects of the campground, from the store to housekeeping, operating heavy equipment, and even cleaning bathrooms. I'm currently pursuing my master's in business administration in my spare time while working full-time for the campground. I've been an active member of the National Society Daughters of the American Revolution, the DAR, where I do various forms of volunteering and historical preservation for my state and community. So even from a young age, that an entrepreneurial ethic was instilled very deeply in me. See those cute little hustlers with their lemonade stand on the 4th of July while the campers checked in? We were raking in those quarters. When I was fairly young, my dad took us to the county fairs. I looked around at all the trash, and I stopped dead in my tracks, and I was like, and my dad's like, Amy, what's wrong? I opened my arms again, he said, honey, this isn't our trash to pick up. We only take care of the campground. I don't say regale work ethic lightly. We all work very, very hard. In his final years, while fading under the cruel weight of Alzheimer's disease, Richard was sitting at the table with his caregiver, and he turned and said, we've got to call off the cement trucks. And she was like, what? He said, it's raining. We got to call off the cement trucks. His mind was always on work. Oops, we're skipping. My parents, Chris and Jolene, actually met while working together at the campground and were married in September of 1983. My mom started working out in the office, and my dad worked outside. Eventually, she ran the office, then the store, mowed grass, all while my dad kept everything running outdoors. Oops, we are going way further. There we go.
Use the domino.
Yeah, it's really touchy. My dad wanted 3 boys, but my mom said, 3 strikes, you're out, no more kids. So I guess I became the boy he never had. Because of my dad, he turned me into quite the Jill of all trades, if you will. I continue to learn everything there is about construction and building the campground. It's quite something to drive through the park at night and see all the sites that we've made or the trees we've planted. But it's another thing to spend the countless hours in the extreme elements cultivating the campground into something beautiful. On pleasant summer nights when you ride around, you watch all the people camping. They're smiling, grilling, biking, roasting marshmallows on the campfire, and then watching the children play and laugh on the playground. It all makes the hard work worth it. We pride our business on cleanliness and building a family-friendly environment that allows people to create memories for future generations. Richard and Rose, my grandparents, were married on November 29th in 1952 at St. John's Catholic Church down in Allenton, Michigan. They had a house-moving business in the Detroit area where they moved houses out of the way of the ever-expanding interstate highways. In the 60s, the U.S. introduced the Federal Aid Highway Act of 1965. This act is also known as the National Interstate and Defense Highways Act, which authorized the construction of a nationwide network of highways, resulting in 41,000 miles of road. The motivation behind this act was to improve national defense, economic growth, and urban planning. Richard and Rose moved so many houses out of the path of progress that they created entire subdivisions in the Detroit area. The techniques that they use to move buildings are something I'm very familiar with. I've moved a few cabins with my dad throughout the years. Before World War II, Richard was set to attend the University of Michigan and play football for the Detroit Lions. Instead, he headed overseas to Europe. I discovered a pamphlet of a football game that Richard partook in during his time stationed in Italy. The military branches got together and would play football to boost troop morale and give the wounded some entertainment. These are a few photos that I came across of Richard's service in the Army. And here's the game pamphlet. The division artillery tankers versus the 350th Infantry. Richard's photo is featured in a military newspaper article right up on the top left there. He was handsome. When Richard and Rose outfitted a Chevy Greenbrier van for camping and took off across the USA with 3 young sons on a road trip, their mission was to discover the perfect place to start a campground. They bravely set out on a 10,000-mile trip in an old Chevy van with 3 boys who were under the age of 5. Richard, as a World War II veteran, knew that after the soldiers had witnessed and explored the wonders of Europe and Asia Pacific, they'd never be content going back home to live on the farm. The soldiers could never return to life as they knew it because life as they knew it was forever changed. I mean, experiencing all that rich cultures and monuments and historical things that Europe had to offer. My grandpa essentially saw the beginnings of the traveling boom and the camping industry. But what a better way to discover the perfect place to open a campground than to go camp across the United States. They would hit tourist traps, the national parks, visit family and friends spread across the country. It almost seems so ironic that after setting across the United States in pursuit of their campground, that they would end up purchasing property on US 23 just 2 miles south of Mackinaw City, and ironically a few hours north of their childhood homes. Together, Richard and Rose had 4 boys and lived on the property in a 1-room cabin that is still in use for campers to rent out today. The 340 square foot rustic cabin pictured here. Rustic means there was no indoor plumbing. Richard and Rose were building the campground, living in this cabin with 3 boys, 2 of whom were in cloth diapers. Rose would often wash her laundry in a cold hand pump, conveniently located just outside. I couldn't even begin to imagine what that's like. By the time the 4th son rolled around, Richard had built a combination house office, all with the standard utilities. The cabin remains the same on the outside today, but has been slightly modified and adapted so that our customers can rent and enjoy it for their stay. After purchasing the 6-acre plot on 23, Richard and Rose quickly got to work. My Uncle Frank recalls watching his Army buddy Big Al and my grandfather throw cement bricks like they were footballs while finishing the shower bathhouse. Richard was a jack of all tradesmen. He plumbed, wired the entire building. Richard ran the bulldozer and any large equipment, along with digging anything that needed digging with a shovel. Pounding stakes, setting grades, you name it. Richard and Rose spent the whole winter building campsites. Mackinaw Mill Creek Campground opened 4th of July in 1964, renting sites at a rate of $2 per night with a total of 18 campsites. Here's Richard pouring cement. The campground started as 6 acres in '64. The plots were slowly purchased throughout the decades until reaching an impressive size of 200 acres along Lake Huron today. The state of Michigan and the federal parks were so impressed with my grandfather's RV dump station sewer system that they soon adapted it into their own parks and still use it today. Michigan Outdoors once did a feature on the campground in my grandfather's handmade playground equipment, from which he created with his own pipe bending equipment in his Detroit shop. We still use the playground equipment he built, some of the existing picnic table frames, and the same machinery today. Richard was quite ingenious. Eventually, he centralized the campground's garbage dumpsters to one area instead of picking up trash from each individual site. This not only saved a huge amount of time, but reduced the amount of wildlife from creeping in and opening up the trash bags and making a huge mess all over your sites. So in the picture, it's, I think from right to left, Chris, Frank, Vince, and Ed. The boys were a big part in helping build the campground and later on with the expansion. The boys learned how to shovel rocks and help their dad shoot grades to set tile at proper levels. The boys picked up garbage, cleaned bathrooms, mowed grass, and worked in every aspect of the campground they could. I too had a very similar experience. I've cleaned cabins and bathrooms, worked in the store making pizza, scooping ice cream, stocking shelves. Then I got onto operating the heavy equipment, running errands for supplies, making drop-offs, various pickups, hauling machines with a truck and trailer. Today, the brothers are still working extremely hard. Frank's background is in communication, entertainment, and law. Chris is the civil engineer. He does all the construction and planning. Vince is the general manager. And Ed is our MBA, the Master's in Business Administration. Believe it or not, when the campground first opened, they didn't use any sort of advertising. When it came to marketing, the campground primarily took off via word of mouth and repeat customers. A writer from the Detroit Free Press found the campground, wrote an article, and published it. That article ended up bringing a wave of attention that we never expected. That kind of exposure helped put the campground on the map. My grandparents were very frugal, cutting the labor costs by doing it themselves. And I mean, my grandparents did everything. They truly beat the odds stacked against them in creating a legacy. Rose is pictured here receiving the Lady Bird Johnson Award in the 70s for keeping America beautiful. Named after Lady Bird Johnson, who famously championed the Highway Beautification Act of 1965. This award was typically given in recognition of outstanding efforts in community beautification, environmental stewardship, and conservation. Often given through the National Keep America Beautiful program, and, which Lady Bird Johnson strongly supported. This award is presented by the Lady Bird Johnson Foundation and or associated environmental and conservation groups. Richard and Rose were honored in the 70s for preserving the natural beauty and providing environmentally conscious and scenic camping experiences in northern Michigan. A value which clearly aligned with the Lady Bird Johnson's legacy. Pictured to the right is an article by the Sheboygan Daily Tribune when we were celebrating our 50th anniversary. That was quite an experience. It was a very huge celebration. The Regala brothers took the campground beyond what Richard and Rose ever dreamed of by acquiring the golf course, the Mackinaw Club, Mackinaw Lakefront Cabins, Beachcomber, and the Mackinaw Lake Trail Motel, which was better known as the Old Chief Motel. There are cabins in Carp Lake that we completely remodeled into what is now known as Lake Paradise Cottages, and we spent a lot of time working on that transformation. The cabins were gutted down to the bones. Floors were lifted, foundations repaired. We worked countless hours hauling errands for supplies, moving sod from the golf course to finish the lawns, and clear coating the wood and pouring custom resin countertops. I remember driving truckload after truckload of materials in and out and setting rocks and being able to complete every detail that I was handed. At times, it felt like that job would never end. But now, looking at what it's become, it's just absolutely beautiful. That kind of work ethic, the pride in doing what's right even when it's hard, is just something you can't buy these days. It feels like a lost way of life, and I'm very proud to have been a part of it. When we build additions, it's not as simple as a 1, 2, 3 fix. There's so much detail that we consider in putting into these projects. From the roof color to the flowers and the landscaping. The attention to detail is often so great that, oops, there we go again. So touchy. The attention to detail is so great that most people miss it. But at the end of the day, you have that internal job well done sense of accomplishment. My dad always says, do it right the first time. He's so right. Later on, when you look back at all the hard work, you can feel a sense of accomplishment like, hey, I did that. Each year, the campground manages thousands of reservations, many of which are for families and large groups. This translates into thousands of visitors each year, meaning an incredible impact economically for a city of only 846 residents. Guests come from across the United States and across the world to stay with us. This means they dine at local restaurants, take the ferries to the island, visit our local attractions, and shop at nearby businesses. The campground not only drives tourism, but it also provides year-round employment for many residents. Some of our team members have been with us for decades, and that kind of loyalty speaks to the strong sense of community we've built. We're proud to not only carry on a family legacy, but to also be a vital part of our local economy. By offering stable year-round jobs, the campground helps the local families thrive and create legacies of their own. This was little me all tuckered out after a long day of grading roads with Grandpa. This is Grandpa I collecting ash cans from the full hookups. I had the privilege during my senior year of high school to write an essay about my grandparents. The objective was to ask my grandparents a deep and meaningful life question. I couldn't just pick one. We were so excited to have these questions answered by Richard. My Uncle Frank got me set up with a microphone and we were going to record it, but it was the day when Alzheimer's had controlled his clarity. He couldn't answer any of my questions. I rode home and I cried. Some days I was his granddaughter, and then there were some days I was the pretty girl that came in and hugged him. Richard had a nursing caregiver named Vicky who was able to get these questions answered for me on his good days. And now, even after all these years, we can still appreciate these words of wisdom from Richard. My grandfather's parents, Frank and Jesty Regala, wanted their son to be able to take care of himself and his family. When asked if he believes he fulfilled their wish, he said, absolutely. Building the campground provided for my family and made jobs for others. His words of advice to me were, keep your nose clean. Always tell the truth. And if you don't do anything to haunt you, you won't have to worry about what's waiting around you at the corners. Knowing my grandpa, the work hard work ethics advice was definitely sure to follow. His definition of success was the amazing ability to work and have always been able to keep his family's needs met. Alzheimer's disease is a disease in which the nerve cells in the human brain die. It prevents the brain from sending everyday signals throughout the body. One with Alzheimer's has an issue with memories, and judgment, which can make everyday life really complicated for the person to go through. I'm proud to say that Richard was my grandfather, and his American dream, the campground, the legacy they left behind for their children, their grandchildren, and now their great-grandchildren. Creating a legacy isn't about your future or even your children's future. It's about shaping a better future for others too. My grandparents understood that when they built Mackinaw Creek Camping. It wasn't only a business, it was a living, breathing commitment to preserving nature, building community, and offering a place where people could reconnect with something bigger than themselves. Growing up here meant making friends with kids in the playgrounds. One of the families that stands out has been staying up here since we first opened. Their grandparents came up from Saginaw and have stayed here every year for Labor Day as a tradition. It's surreal, just watching the kids I grew up with playing on the playground bring their children here to come play on the playground, and watching them create all the same exact adventures I had as a child. When I plant wildflower seeds around the park or a tree, it's more than just the act itself. It's imagining how tall that tree is going to stand in 30 years, how its roots are going to anchor deep into the earth, how its branches are going to stretch towards the sky. Growing a legacy is about believing in a future you may never live to see, but still choosing to nurture it anyway. The campground is more than a business to me. It's home. Not because of the land or the buildings, but because of the people and the memories rooted in every corner. Home isn't always a place, but the feeling you carry with you, shaped by those you love and the moments you treasure. Richard passed away after my high school graduation in 2009. When I grabbed my diploma, I looked through the crowd and I found him. He had this big old smile on his face, and I knew in that moment he had clarity. I knew he heard my name, and I knew he knew who I was that day. I would sadly be the only grandchild Richard got to witness graduate. Rose passed away in 2006, and my mom on Labor Day weekend in 2020. Sometimes when riding through the park, memories bring tears to my eyes, but they also bring warmth. So even now, you can still feel their presence in the breeze off the lake, the laughter echoing from the campsites, and the quiet pride of what they built. Many moments while composing this presentation brought a few tears to my eyes. This opportunity has served as a great reminder that this isn't just a campground. It's about honoring the passion, preserving legacy, and the love that built it. The campground reflects the people who poured their hearts into it, and it will always be a deep part of who I am. I am truly grateful for the opportunity to revisit these old photos and allow the memories to resurface. And thank you for taking the time to hear our story and allowing me to share a piece of my family's history.